The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah! Go Cowboys! This is Cowboys Storylines with Nick Eatman.
What is up? It is Cowboys Storyline Monday after the Cowboys lose to Arizona. What was that? Don't know. Still trying to figure that out. Maybe I can get some help from you guys because I'm sure you are ready to chime in on the Cowboys' 28-16 loss to Arizona. Once again, they go to the desert and weird things happen because this was a weird one. It was a weird game all the way around. But the Cowboys just got outplayed. Simple as that. I mean, I think everyone kind of thought it was going to go a certain way, and it didn't. And you can finger point to a lot of different things, but at the end of the day, they couldn't stop the run. They couldn't convert in the red zone, and field goals will not win games when you're giving up touchdowns. That's just simple. That's simple football right there, and that's what happened with the Cowboys. So I want to hear from you guys, 888-855-2297, and I'm sure you're ready. We already got some people on the line. Let's play nice here today. Let's remember this. I understand a lot of people have some things to say. The more that we can kind of get the point, let's go. Let's move on to other people. We'll try to get as many calls as we can. I understand there'll be some ranting going on, and rightfully so, but let's try not to go too long. Let's try to get as many people on the line as we can. So that being said, let's just go right to it. Joe in Stanford. Joe, what's up, man?
Hey, morning, brother. So, that pretty much sucked. I've got irrational and rational. So my irrational is the last 2 years I've watched 3 games in bars, Jacksonville at the end of the season, the playoff game against the 49ers, and then yesterday. Needless to say, I won't be in the bar anymore watching the Cowboys.
Yeah, stay at home.
Rational. Yeah, no doubt, because it was my fault. That's my irrational. My rational, dude, you're right. I don't know what happened with this run defense. What in the world? It's like, was Trayvon Diggs making 30 tackles a game? Right. What in the world, man? You know?
I know.
I don't get it.
I mean, as I wrote in my story, I get it. They're all, the hip bone's connected to the elbow bone, all that stuff. I get it. But, and certainly having Trayvon out there helps in other ways. But the run defense, 222 yards. No, he's not making all those tackles. He's not. I mean, and they got a lot of misdirection. And I'll say this: I looked at it just from the press box view, from what I saw. It was kind of my initial thought. And then I watched a little bit of the game last night, and I think we're seeing the downside of playing linebackers that are converted safeties. Now, I'm not saying it's always going to be bad. But when you put a Marquise Bell at linebacker, or even Jaron Kearse or Donovan Wilson, people watch tape and they understand physics. And so go look at the touchdown by Rondale Moore. Just go watch that one if you could stomach it. It was perfectly schemed by Arizona to say, you want to put Marquise Bell at linebacker? Watch this. And they put the guard, and they have Marquise Bell and Leighton Vander Esch, one side. The guard goes to the second level, completely knocks Marquise out of the way. Rondale Moore, touchdown, and he's got Leighton chasing him. You got Leighton chasing the running back, receiver type player, and you got Marquise Bell taking on the guard. Perfectly schemed, and that's what they're going to do. They'll circle up, and that wasn't the first time. Jaron Kearse on a touchdown run, same thing. As I'm watching NFL Network, and Rondale Moore scores a touchdown right there. I mean, so You can put fast little guys and run around, and that'll help in some ways. But if it gets blocked by a guard, you're going to lose. And so I think we're seeing kind of the downside of that. And I'm sure Dan Quinn will talk about that later today in his press conference. All right, let's go to the callers. Jason from Delaware. What's up, Jason?
Nick, how you doing, man? Good to talk to you.
Good to talk to you.
Hey, so I was just listening to what you're saying there about the defense. And as bad as they were and as outcoached as they looked, I got much more faith in Dan Quinn, Micah, and them boys figuring that side of the ball out. But what's concerning me right now through 3 games, game number 1, we didn't have to rely much on offense to do anything. You could say the same for game number 2. Well, this was a game where Dak had to overcome a lot of adversity, and as well as McCarthy with his play calling and everything throughout the game to make something happen. And it just seemed like they just had no answers for anything that Arizona was doing, as if it was the first time they'd ever seen, teams play them like this. So I'm just worried about McCarthy's play calling, game management. I thought we should have kicked the field goal when it was 21-13 to make it 21-16 because you got a lot of game left, and now a TD would have put you up. And then Dak's interception in the end zone there. I mean, if you look, there's a picture floating around Twitter. He's got the clean pocket. There's no rush. He had plenty of time. There's a fourth down left, too, so you could live to play that one more down, and he just throws into triple coverage, man. So I'm worried about the play calling, McCarthy's game management, and Dak's decision-making.
Yep. Thanks for the call, Jason. You're not wrong with any of that. The red zone issues, last week it was like, all right, well, they weren't really trying to score a lot. They were being vanilla down there. Cool. Not this time. And I thought the play calling, I thought they moved the ball pretty well. I mean, they had 400 and something yards, 422, I believe. They moved the ball, but when they got into the red zone, that was the issue. And this is not a new thing. Like the offensive line just doesn't have that push. And I say it all the time. And Derek Eagleton sits next to me in the press box, and he knows every time it's first and goal at the 10 or first and goal at the 9, it's trouble. It's trouble when you can't just run the football and push them back. Go back in the third and fourth quarter, sorry. They had first down or first and goal from the 11, from the 10, from the 9, from the 11. And they ran the ball all 4 times on first down. And they got 2 yards, 3 yards, 2 yards, and minus 2 yards. So your average, I don't know what that average is 2, maybe 1, 1.5, something like that. But it doesn't help you. I mean, you want to get like to the 5, you want to get 4 or 5 yards there because you're starting to get behind the chains. And I think that's the problem. I thought they did a decent job of moving it throughout, but in the red zone, that's where the problem is. And you can put an asterisk if you want because of the offensive line and who was there and who wasn't. But it's still no one cares. They should, but no one cares about the offensive line and the injuries that you have. But the good thing is that probably won't be the case moving forward with the injury situation. All right, let's go to Travis in San Antonio for the next caller. Travis.
Hey, Nick, how you doing?
Hey, how are you, man?
I'm still pretty good. I mean, I still think the defense is going to be fine, even coming out of this game. I think, if I'm being honest, I think I underestimated not so much missing Diggs, but I think that I underestimated the team's emotional readiness for this game.
Mm-hmm.
I think that played a factor into it because I saw CeeDee Lamb with the number 7 eye black, and I just don't know if they were – it's almost like they didn't put that to bed, and I'm not saying, like, forget him, whatever, but I think there has to be a moment of, like, he's not going to be able to help us. Like, right. He's not coming back. So, like, we have to move on. I don't think that happened necessarily during the week, which it's understandable. And then I know we got out-coached, but I think part of that is, like, we got out-coached in the red zone. I understand there were no rub routes. There was nothing easy down there, which I don't think helps. But I think the coaching staff may have operated from a standpoint of the first 2 games we relied on our defense and we kind of played a conservative game plan because as soon as I saw Tyron was out, I texted a buddy and said, here comes an even more conservative game plan because it's just that makes sense. You just rely on your defense, do the same thing you did the first 2 weeks.
Right.
You should be fine. But it didn't work this time. You got behind. And so I think they may have to reassess offense and defense going forward
right.
of how do we want to attack this.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
just see what you think.
Yeah. Thanks, Travis, for the call. You're right. I mean, you can play that way when you're up by two touchdowns or whatever, like they were against the Giants and the Jets, and of course they were up by a lot more against the Giants. But you can play a different style. Is this a great offense for coming back and coming back in the game? And I think it is because at no point do I think that they really had to abandon what they were trying to do. I mean, they were down there with 5 minutes to go, down by 12. And looking like it was going to be first and goal at the 1, I I have no answers for that of why it wasn't. I just there's nothing about that play that makes me understand why they picked up the flag. But whatever. If somebody wants to call about that and talk about it, we can. I'll get off that soapbox there. But I mean, it was the way the game was officiated all day. They had to you have to factor that in. I mean, you have to play that way, when you're both sides of the ball. But yeah, I think if you're going to come back, you're going to play that kind of offense. I think it's not one that's going to take big shots down the field, but I still think that they didn't have to abandon what they were trying to do. But it's something to look at, moving forward, because this team certainly. We saw that they couldn't just rely on the defense. They didn't rely on the defense yesterday. They needed to in a game like that, and it didn't work out. Let's go to the text line. We've got one from Raquel in Walnut Creek, California. I love Dak, but he knows he should have never thrown that ball to Cooks, and no, the linebacker didn't make a great play because he threw it into triple coverage. I have faith we'll bounce back next week. Yep, he knows that. He shouldn't throw it into triple coverage. It was forcing it. I'm not sure why, but he did, and that's it. That was a huge play in the game. All right, fourth caller we've got is David in Pinehurst. David, what's up?
What is up, Nick? Man, hey, let's go with the Bill Parcells quote. I'm not really in the excuse business. No excuses for this one, man. I mean, freaking pew, 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 Jonathan Gannon's defense. Did he unlock some code that Vic Fangio did back in 2021? Remember, that score was 30-16. We were riding high, and Vic was like, yeah, I figured out how to beat the Cowboys. Last week I was early to anoint this defense as doomsday, but I got to pull that back, man. We have got to find a way to stop the run, but what's scary is I see this as a scheme thing. What's creeping up here defensively, Gannon was able to do something with misdirection and scheme fits, and we can't get this red zone offense going. Last but not least, this is probably the worst quote. The media got what they wanted. Come on, Dak. You got to be better than that. If we win against New England and we take it to San Francisco, this game's in the books. That's all I got.
Thank you, David. I don't know about the no excuses. I mean, I don't know what excuses there are. I mean, I don't know what that's in reference to. I was going to ask him that. What the excuses? I mean, who's throwing out excuses? I don't know. Then again, I mean, a lot of times a lot of callers come in and they hear what they see on social media and stuff like that. So that, that's the narrative. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the excuses are. I mean, they had a lot of penalties, and most of them were legit. There were some. The way the game was called was just didn't favor the Cowboys. The way that they play, the way that their style is. The offensive line, that's a thing. I mean, that's not an excuse. That's a thing. That's a problem. You can't play with two guys that have never started a game before, and then Chuma Edoga on the left side, which we can get to here in a second. But that's a legitimate difference in what you're trying to do. So we can just stop that right now about anybody that thinks that's there's no excuses. That's a problem. Okay, you have to factor that in. They get down in the red zone, they didn't move the ball. And if you don't think it's a problem, then you know what? Maybe those guys don't need to be on the team. I mean, maybe we just won't put Zach Martin back in or Tyler Biadasz. I mean, let's remember what you're saying. I mean, there's a reason why these guys get paid the way they do, and it's hard to have backups. I tweeted this out. They lost 19 Pro Bowlers from week 2 to week 3. 19 combined Pro Bowls in 1 week. I mean, that is not an excuse. That's just the reality of football. Is when you have quality players that are making a lot of money, the backups it's a huge drop off, and it is a big drop off when you lose 3 offensive linemen in 1 week. Okay, should they have lost the game because of that? I still think they could have won the game, and I think that they should have won the game. The defense didn't rally like we wanted them to. But let's not sit here and say that it's not a factor or it's not whatever. You can call it an excuse, whatever. It's a factor, but they didn't overcome it, and that's what you have to do in this NFL, overcome it. The Dak quote, listen to the entire press conference. If you can listen to the entire press conference, listen to the question. Don't just listen to the answer that gets put out on Twitter. Listen to the question. The question was, you guys were on top of the world. What happened? And Dak said, y'all put us on top of the world. We didn't do that. We know where we are, and whatever he said about the media wants this, just listen to the whole thing. I wouldn't just take one quote and say you got to be better than that. The question could have been better as well. All right, a couple of let's go to the phone call here. Steve in New York. Steve, what's up?
Hey Nick, my quick rant. I know everyone getting on Dak with the throw and the red zone with the linemen out. I get it, but bottom line, the Cowboys got run over. Okay, James Conner, Joshua Dobbs, and Rondale Moore ran us over. Period. And listen. You can make excuses. This guy's out, but the Cowboys ran for 180 yards plus, and he only got sacked twice. I mean, this wasn't the Chaz Green game, right? I mean, It wasn't. I thought the offensive line, all things considered, they weren't terrible. They really weren't.
They weren't terrible. They just didn't. They weren't as good as you needed them to be in the red zone. But you're right. They hung in there.
They did. And just real quick, I wanted your opinion. A caller hit on it earlier. What was your take on going forward on fourth down? I thought that was a horrible decision.
Didn't like it. Thanks, Steve, for the call.
You got it.
I didn't like it. And Derek and I were kind of talking about it. Again, I'm referencing that in the press box. We didn't like it. Like when they're under center, like I don't like this. And then after the incomplete pass, it was funny how a lot of people are like, that was terrible, and throwing out analytics and all that. But I didn't like it because the momentum of the game was continuing. I mean, just keep scoring. And, think about how different it is if you got 3 more points. If it's 28-19 and you're driving there late, you don't have to be as aggressive trying to throw it into triple coverage. You just kick the field goal. Make it 28-22, and then you kick off. So the 3 points would have been really important, I think. And if you would have stopped them back there and then they punted, that's one thing. But you didn't. They got a deep ball from their own end zone and threw it out. So, in hindsight there, it didn't look good, but I didn't like it at the time either. I thought you just kind of keep going, keep getting field goals there because they weren't proving that they could score there in the red zone. All right, let me go to another text message. Why put Edoga at left tackle? This is Steve in Vermont. Why put Edoga at left tackle? He was so much better at guard. I can't understand why you'd put him in that position. I'm not excusing the way he played. He was put in that position by the coaches. He says Notre Dame loses on the last play. What an awful sports weekend. Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Awful sports weekend for sure. The only thing I could think of why he was at left tackle is just because Tyler Smith had been, coming. You could say, okay, Awesome Richards or him. I think that they just felt like he was better than Awesome Richards. Why not Tyler Smith out there? Tyler Smith coming off a hamstring injury. No one had told me this. I just feel like if he's coming off a hamstring injury, it's a little tougher to play left tackle than it would be left guard as far as the mobility that you need there. So I feel like that's where they wanted to put him back there. But if you're going to play Edoga at tackle, in my opinion, he's got to be at right. He's got to be on the right side. He's got to be at right tackle, not left tackle. And that's not good for Terrence Steele, but he's got to be on the right side where Dak can see that. You've got to see that. Romo used to say it all the time about to his right tackle. Don't hold. I can make this guy miss. But Dak's got to be able to see that. I don't think he's the left tackle. I think he's a guard. I think they got to figure that out. But he fought through it. He had some plays that weren't so great, but he kept battling there. Let's go to the call. David in Pennsylvania.
Hey, how are you?
Good, man. How are you?
Frustrated, I think, like most Cowboy fans right now.
Yeah, I feel you, man. What's the most frustrating part?
I'd say, honestly, it was not playing complimentary football. We lose 3 offensive linemen going into this game. We knew Tyron's not going to play. Mm-hmm. And the defense just comes out completely flat from the start. I'm not going to put blame on Micah. Micah's Micah, but watching him still, it seemed that nobody wanted to contain the outside. Mm-hmm. You see Dante Fowler just coming up off the edge. Nobody was trying to hold, and Micah was just kind of flying around, just looked like a wild child in a sense. But and there wasn't anything that our defense could do in that first half to stop them for some reason. But you look at the opposite side of the ball. I mean, I'm sorry, but CD, you got to go for that ball in the end zone.
Yeah.
You can't try to play for the penalty there. Like, Dez Bryant would have gone up and caught that ball. He would have gone through that person. He's not Dez, but he's got to have a little fire like him, I think.
I agree. Yeah, Dave, I appreciate it. And a good call, too, because, these, Micah Parsons is Micah. But there's a flip side to everything. The guy quoted Parcells earlier. Here's another Parcells quote. There's two sides to that pancake, and there's always that's the way it is when you want to be an aggressive defense, that you want to just live off sacks. Let's get to the quarterback, rush. Well, they can play against that as well. And that's, that first play of the game or the first run, was it Dobbs on the outside? I mean, it's Micah's mentality to go get the quarterback all the time or go get the ball, and sometimes you can use their aggressiveness against them, and I think that happens at times. And I'm not saying that you can fault them for that, but you have to also be at the same time. You have to be contained. It's controlled chaos. You can't just fly to the football all the time because that's going to get you exposed. And I think that's what happened. Arizona did a nice job of playing against that right now. You got to give their coaching staff and their players credit for the way that they said, all right, 2 games on film. We've seen the way Dallas wants to play. The best way for us to combat that is to play it like this. And it did work. It worked for them. Let's go to another text message. John from New York. It seemed to me the whole entire scheme of the offense is designed for Dak not to lose the game and avoid interceptions. Hard to win unless defense is lights out. Your thoughts? Defense. I mean, the defense doesn't have to be lights out. I mean, they weren't close to that. I mean, every light was on in that game. I mean, so I don't know if the defense has to be lights out. It's just the defense has to be better than that. The offense, you're trying not to turn the ball over. I mean, that's a key thing. You don't want to turn the football over. You want to play it smart, kick field goals and all that. But I think the defense could have played better than 28 points. I mean, they're averaging 5 points a game going into that, and they give that up in the first quarter. So, it wasn't complimentary football like one of the callers said earlier. All right, let's go to Johnny on the phone line. Johnny in Ridgeville, South Carolina.
Hey there, how you doing?
Hi, Johnny. How are you?
Woo Pigs.
Oh.
It's a hard knock life being a Hog fan and a Cowboy fan this week, isn't it?
That was a tough one.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, I called you a couple of weeks ago, and I told you I was afraid the Cowboys was going to start smelling themselves just a little too much.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they walked in there yesterday thinking how good they smelled. And it showed on the field because it wasn't a matter of talent. It was a mentality that they didn't have. It was a mentality that I can just do this. And the fits were terrible. I mean, I know, when I'm coaching my high school kids, I can get them on the sideline and I can read them the riot act. These are grown men.
Right.
And, at what point did the coaches say, I can't get them back? Well, he never did. He never got them back. When you got them in 3rd and long and they throw a fade against your best corner when you really need to stop, things aren't going well that day.
Right.
I don't think that means Dallas is a bad team. And everybody who thinks this is going to complain about Dak, you know what? Tell the wide receivers to get open. That makeshift offensive line gave him time a lot of times. He couldn't find anybody open.
Yeah, there's truth to that.
Get open. They ran the ball efficiently, but guys don't get open. Defense, they played like a team that, I get it. You lost your best corner. I get that. But you get, this is a profession. You got to, cowboy up and go do your job, and they didn't do it. And they got what they deserved. Do they learn from it? Probably so. But this is what Dan Quinn coached this week, and this is what Mike McCarthy coached this week. You are what you are.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for the call, Johnny. You are what you are. It's a lot of Parcells-isms going out for this game. Man, where to start from that? Yeah, I mean the defense. I mean, Deron Bland replacing Diggs. You know, he did have his best game for sure, and that's going to be a challenge moving forward because that's the thing. The defense is more concerning to me than the offense because Diggs isn't coming back. This is it. This is what you've got. You've got to figure out how to play like this, and they're going to be better than Josh Dobbs and James Conner and Rondale Moore. It's going to be better than that. I mean, it just will. And so you've got to figure out how to combat that. On offense, yeah, get open and be better in the red zone. You know, at least you have something. At least you can say, well, they're gonna have better offensive linemen than that. They're gonna be able to run the ball better, hopefully down in the red zone. But they've got to fix some things too, and I think you put some on the receivers too. They need to be more aggressive to go get the football. Text message from the 210 number: the interference non-call on Gallup, wasn't that the same play was called on Anthony Brown against the Raiders a year or two ago? I don't remember that. It's the same call that's called on every cornerback that doesn't turn his head and puts his face or his helmet right in a guy's chest before the ball. And it wasn't a non-call. It was a call. That's the thing that's frustrating to me about it because you're playing it one way all game. They're calling it. There's 13 flags in the game. They called one on Bland. They called it offensive interference on CD, which was a huge play in the game. So they're calling it this way all game long. And they called it there. That's the issue that I have is the guy with the best eyes right there threw the flag. And then they get together. Maybe they talk to New York. Not sure. And they go out and they just say it wasn't PI. It's third down. Like you got to explain that. I'm sorry. You have to get on there and explain what the thing was. That was a terrible non-call. And again, not throwing out the excuses. It's just be consistent. Just be consistent in how you're calling the game, and let the guy. And also, if you don't need 7 officials, then don't use them. I mean, if you're not going to say, hey, you see the play, you're trained for this, throw it. And I just didn't understand why that one got picked up when they've called it that tight all game long. So that one was a little bit. I mean, that was a lot. That was shocking to me. I didn't understand that one. So they should be frustrated with that. All right, let's go, Jimmy in El Paso. Are you next? Jimmy in El Paso. What's up, Jimmy?
Hey, Nick. Good morning. How you doing?
I'm good. You?
Good. Love your show, man. Been following you for the longest time.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, everybody's saying that, that the Cowboys are, they had a bad game. I get that, but there's still positives that came out of that. Number one was Gallup. He had a real good, solid game. I hope he continues the same. Rico, very, very good game as well. And if Turpin would have run that without a penalty, we would have probably been in a better situation. But I think the next thing, burn the tape and on with the next.
Yeah. Well, I don't. You know what? Thanks for the call. I appreciate that, and I hear that a lot. Burn the tape. I don't want to burn it just yet. I want them to see what the Cardinals did to them. I mean, because they have to fix that. The Cardinals out-schemed them in a lot of ways, especially with that defense, the way the Cardinals ran the ball at them. And so they're going to have to figure out. Other teams are going to do that. We see it all the time. It's copycat league. Somebody made the call about Denver a couple years ago, how they came in and did some things on defense to really slow down the Cowboys offense, and it kind of changed throughout the year. So, that was big. Gallup had a nice game. And it's kind of what we said last week is that it goes like that. They're going to play CD differently. Gallup's going to get a chance to step up, and he did. So that's good. Rico Dowdle's showing that he's a really good number 2 running back. He does a nice job catching the ball out of the backfield, scored that touchdown. He runs hard. So, I think I don't know if they're really missing a whole lot there, with not having that power back yet. Hunter Lipke got the carry, went 9 yards. They're giving him more and more. Turpin play was big. It was not included in my 5 plays article, mainly because they got down there 90 seconds later, I think. I mean, they were down there. It looked like a big play, and then they went all the way back. But in a matter of 3 or 4 plays, they were back there even further and had a chance to go score. So as much as it looked like it was a 65-yard penalty, but they were right back in position to do that just a few seconds later without a lot of time taken off. So didn't affect them as much. It sure seemed like it did, but they were able to score anyways. Let's go to the phone lines again. Sebastian in Savannah, Georgia. Sebastian.
Good morning, Mr. Eman. A quick shout out to Will, Jazzy, and Crispine making it work in the back every single day. These guys work hard.
They definitely do. Thanks for saying that.
I really enjoy the fact that we have a lot of level-headed callers today. You know, at the end of the day, I think this is one of those situations where a team is better than their record. And I think they surprised us. Yeah. I don't know if you want to say eating the proverbial cheese that they like to throw out or filling themselves from the first 2 wins, but they came out flat. And I haven't seen that since a lot of times, like when we faced the 49ers that first time around, we were kind of flat. I was surprised by the fact that coaching couldn't help out in this game. At no level, special teams, defense, and offense coordinator, it seemed like they had no answer.
Yeah.
Like they didn't, as professionals, I expected them to watch the tape and have an answer for Josh Dobbs. But you saw this in the first 2 weeks. Washington has an amazing defense. They blazed Washington's defense for 3 quarters and then blew it. Sometimes you get hit in the mouth and you can't come back from it.
Yep. Well, they did.
I want to see more from CD. I don't like how he got so emotional. You see him on the bench with his head hanging low. That's what takes you out of that top 5 for me.
Yeah.
If you have to realize that some days just aren't going to be your day. Pump up everybody else on that sideline. Help your quarterback out. I saw very little separation. I saw very little effort, it seemed like at times. And then all I want to see for the red zone, clean it up. Clean it up a little bit. It's very jumbled down there. Run the ball, loosen it up. You don't have to have everybody flying into the end zone because you saw it so many times. 4 or 5 people in the end zone, no one to go to.
Yeah.
All right, you guys have a great day.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you. A lot of stuff there. One thing that was a little disappointing is, and I saw this a lot at training camp, and I was really excited about it, and I haven't seen it as much, is how much they spread out the defenses, and they don't seem to do that as much. Again, sometimes I feel like there's an ego that gets put out when the coaches, they want to go big, like let's go jumbo, let's go 3 tight ends, 2 tight ends, whatever. Big on big. And you're not big enough to do it. That's one thing that just always drives me crazy when teams want to play big boy football and they don't have the biggest boys to do it. So when you get out physicaled at the line of scrimmage, like, why are you surprised? I mean, so don't go that way. There's a play that they did an option pitch to CD. They have 3 receivers on the right side. CD, one of them. Cooks and Gallup. They're not going to win any awards for blocking. I think Cooks did have a nice block on the touchdown from Daddle. The guy slipped and then he kind of buried him into the ground. But on this play down by the goal line, they did a pitch out to CD, and it's so you put 3 receivers over there. The Cardinals have 4 defenders. So CD has the ball. So now it's 4 defenders on 2 guys, and he's supposed to make all these guys miss, on a short field. And what do you expect to happen? I mean, that doesn't make any sense to me. So, I mean, spread it out a little bit more. Your tight ends don't have to be guys that are just going to maul people because that's not really their game. So that was a little bit disappointing to me. It's just that it's so jumbled in there. All right, William in Nebraska is next on the phone line.
Hey, Nick, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing okay, man. I'm up here in Nebraska. I'm sure with a couple other, all 5 or 6 of us disappointed Cowboys fans.
I bet it's more than that.
I wanted to touch on a couple of things. First was running back usage. And talked about it a little bit in the red zone. But one of the things I think that we miss without Zeke around is we don't have that running back that's going to go and get 5 yards on, 1st and 10 or 1st and goal. Yeah. And so I don't understand why they're not using Lipke or Dowdle there. Dowdle had a great game, it felt like, and was making some guys miss and breaking tackles. But then you see Pollard in there and things go backward while he tries to kind of find the hole. Yeah. And then the other thing was just defensively, I think Mike is an outstanding player, but he kind of seemed off yesterday. I mean, he got that sack, I think, in the 3rd. But and you touched on it already. Really early in the game, he comes off the corner and had a free shot at Dobbs before he takes off for like 50 yards, and he just let Dobbs go right next to him. So I'm not sure if he just didn't come ready to play, or if that was an assignment thing that was missed there, or what have you. But I don't know that we need him to be a game breaker, at that level of superstar on the defense. Yeah. And when you're just letting QBs run right by you, it's kind of hard to do that. But, thanks.
Yeah. Well, thanks for the call. I mean, it's tough to criticize your best player. I mean, because he is. I mean, Micah is your best player. But, we saw it in times last year. We're seeing it. We saw it yesterday as well. I mean, teams are going to scheme against him and figure out what he's trying to do and use it against him. And that's kind of what it is. I mean, he is focused on getting the ball in the backfield. And there's going to be times when you can kind of sneak a guy around him. So he's going to have to do that, play better with his eyes a little bit. He's not perfect, and he wasn't perfect yesterday. But his rushes, I mean, they also schemed against him. I mean, he had a lot of double teams that he was fighting through, and still does a nice job of doing it. I mean, like he gets there. Like he was close yesterday. That's not good enough all the time. But he was there. I thought he played a pretty good game. Did get the sack and all that. But again, teams aren't just going to let you just, oh, well, he's great. We can't do anything about it because he's Micah. Like, they're going to say, oh, well, let's do this. Let's see if we can kind of offset it that way. And they did. All right, phone line again. Al from Merkel, Texas. Al, what's up?
Hey, man, what's going on?
Not much. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. I plan on starting my call today with, the sun was shining, but actually it's not shining in my area.
Okay. Sun didn't come up, huh?
Yeah. I just want to make 2 points. I think we have the best and the worst fans in the world because when we were winning, I called and I could get in right away. I started calling before your show started. And I was finally able to get in 30 minutes from now. So we just have a bunch of complainers, which that's okay. We lost. We got our butts kicked. Yeah, it's one game. And like Dak said, the media is the one that puts them on top and then puts them on the bottom.
That's what the media does. I mean, that's what you do. You build them up to break them down. I mean, that's the way this thing works. Power of the press. I mean, it works.
They want to build you up so they can tear you down.
It's okay.
Yeah, but we'll be all right. Yeah. We'll be okay. We'll figure it out, and we'll be there. We'll be there. It's all good.
Yeah.
But it's raining right now, but the sun's going to shine.
Yeah. All right, Al, I appreciate it. I'm going to disagree with you a little bit, though. I'll say this. I mean, Mondays after the game, it's been like this. Where there's been a lot of calls. It was like this after 40-0, and the Giants. It was like this last Monday. It's like this. So, and also, if you go back and just listen to the calls, you guys haven't been that way. You guys haven't. I mean, yeah, everyone's frustrated, and they should be, but it's not to the point where it's that negative. I mean, they should be disappointed after a game like that. But I have been proud of the way that the calls have gone here so far. Craig in El Paso, you're next.
Hi, Nick. Enjoy the show very much. With your history, I was getting the impression of, I remember DeMarcus Ware when they first went against RG3, and he would take that inside fake bite, and they would just run around him. Mm-hmm. I mean, they steamed him right out of the play, didn't have to block him. Mm-hmm. Do you think our defensive guys are so intent on sacks, quarterback pressures, and hits that they just charge upfield, and then boom, the guys are going the other way. The quarterback doesn't even have the ball.
Yeah, you probably can't see me, but I'm nodding my head. Yes, that is a thing. Yes, that is a huge thing. That's what's happening. You've got to play different than that. You can't worry about leading the NFL in sacks. Sacks will come if you just play your sound defense. But they're never going to pass the ball if they just keep having to run for 222 yards. So yeah, you have to stop the run first. That's what is being said on Sunday mornings before the games. That's what's being said on Saturday before college games, Friday night, and in the JV games on Wednesday and Thursday night. That's being said. Stop the run. Craig. Still there? Nope.
That's what's happening to our guys just charging upfield. It seems like that's what's happening.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
That's what happened in that game. They got to fix that. It's run first and then go get the quarterback. And so they're a little bit backwards there. They got to get back to that. That's just getting back to the basics.
Well, thanks for taking my call.
Thanks, Craig. Appreciate it. All right, let's go to Brian in Kansas City. Brian, what's up?
Hey, Nick. Good morning.
Morning.
Hey, something that surprised me yesterday, well, a lot of things surprised me yesterday, but one of the things that surprised me was when they realized Tyron wasn't going to go, I was kind of surprised that they didn't kick Tyler Smith outside and put Udoga and Bass inside. Did you think, what did you think when you saw that decision?
I thought, and I've said this a little bit earlier in the show, I just think that it had something to do with Tyler Smith coming back from a hamstring injury. Probably easier for him to play more on the inside. That's where he's practiced. And let's instead of putting him out there and really exposing him to having to kick out a lot more, and that might not be great for a guy coming off of a hamstring injury. That's my only take there. I think Udoga is better at guard than he is at tackle, and I think Tyler Smith can play pretty much either one the same. So I was a little surprised. My only thought was just it had to be something with the injury.
Yeah, it could be. Well, so my question is the red zone obviously is a little bit of a problem. Go ahead.
More than a little. I mean, we're at a stage where it's a big problem right now.
Yeah, no question. So maybe just in your opinion, break down where you think the problem lies and how much of it, and this is just my opinion, how much of it is maybe McCarthy is going to take a little bit of time to get back in the flow of being a down, in and out play caller. And I'll hang up and have a great one, man.
Thanks, Brian. I think we say this all the time, and Brian Broaddus says this. I'm pointing because he's probably right out here ready to do the Cowboys break here in a second. He says it all the time, and I agree with him that coaches have to know their football team. You have to know what you have. It's one thing to learn about another team, but you got to know your own team. And I still think we're figuring that out. There's preseason games are really irrelevant when it comes to these guys. So it's 3 games in. You still haven't figured out. You still haven't got consistency on the offensive line. They're trying to figure out what they can do, what they can call. I think he wants to run the ball, try to run it in the red zone. That's not working right now. Next week, if the guys come back and they're at full strength, maybe that will work. Maybe you can kind of go play it that way. I understand running it on first down because if you can get 4 to 5 yards, it probably means you're going to be in 4-down territory. So I understand doing that. It's big on first down, but it didn't work. So they're going to have to figure out ways to pass the ball in the red zone and still be safe, still make sure that Dak is throwing it to the right team. Obviously there was an interception there. It was not a great look, of course, but I'm not faulting him for that. It's late in the game. You got to make a play. You're not getting the pass interference calls. You're not getting that. Your receivers really aren't getting open. You have to go make a play. And so he was trying to do that. Fred in Virginia. Fred might be the last caller here. Fred, what's up?
Oh, I won the lottery. Hey, so one of the things that I appreciate about the coaching staff is they see the big picture. Like, I don't mind that they set out 3 linemen. To me, this is like, if it mattered, they would have played, but it's week 3. Right? It kind of matters, of course, because you only get 17. But I like the fact that when we go into the playoffs with McCarthy, we generally go in healthy, and this is part of that. They'll sacrifice for the present in order to gain for the future, and that's kind of what I saw yesterday. They hoped because Arizona was playing with injured defensive linemen that they had enough, and they probably did have enough, but it just didn't execute the way. And the other thing is this, let's be real, this is like week 3 of the preseason for the starters because nobody played in the preseason. So they're still trying to figure out what they got, even though they're playing with games that count. That first quarter of the season, they're not, they're still trying to figure it out. So I don't have any qualms. Of course, it sucks they lost. I don't even have any qualms with the approach. It sucks with the result. But it's all part of the formula, which so far has been, 12 wins in 2 seasons has been successful. So I'm riding with McCarthy on this, and hopefully we'll get it straight.
Well, I appreciate the call, and that's a optimistic look. It certainly is. Just remember this though, you can't play it like that all the time. You want to give one, and you want to say, well, we probably could have played, but we think we can beat Arizona. I think everyone kind of understands now that you can get beat. I mean, if you're going to get beat by the Cardinals, Josh Dobbs and those guys, you can get beat on the road, then you can pretty much get beat by anyone. So know that going in. And so you're right. If these guys aren't healthy to play, sit them out and next men up. Not man, it's next men up. See if you can go win the game, and they couldn't. So I think that you can have that mentality every once in a while. You can't have it a lot because you're going to lose games. I mean, it's simple as that. Let's go. Last phone call here is Maurice in Tacoma, Washington.
Hey, what's up, Nick?
Hey, buddy, what's up?
Hey, man, just a few things. My first one is I think that people need to pay more attention to the Achilles heel of our defense and the way quarterbacks are getting plenty of yards on us. That's something that's hurt us pretty bad and might have set the tone for the game.
Mm-hmm.
And then second, people had a lot to say about our offensive line and how Dak should have still been able to be successful. But you think about it, the trust wasn't there. And that clock was really ticking on Dak, especially in that red zone. And then last, Vaughn. If we're not going to play Vaughn, if we're going to suit him up, then why don't we go get us a bruiser like Fournette and use him in some of those red zone short yardage plays, because we're just wasting a jersey at that point. Appreciate it, Nick.
All right, appreciate it. You're right. Quarterback runs is a problem. I mean, it's 3 games now, and 3 guys that that are mobile, but these aren't considered the 3 or 4 top runners in the league. So yeah, that's a problem. I mean, and it goes back to the aggressive style the Cowboys play there. All right, another thing, offensive line trust. Yeah, I think the sure. I mean, you're not going to trust them the same, and they didn't give you reason to really. They played well from like 20 to 20, but inside the 20, it was tough, and I think Dak felt that. As for Deuce, it said he played. I don't remember him playing. He might have played on special teams. I didn't really see him out there. Yeah, I mean, that won't continue to happen. They won't continue to have him if he's not going to be a factor there. I mean, I never saw a play where I'm like, oh, man, Deuce should have been out there. So right now it's kind of hard to find a role for him. I think Rico is doing a really good job. Hunter Lipke is doing a nice job as well. It's hard to get a 4th running back in there. So I think it's gonna be tough, I think, to get him some snaps. But they figured out some ways to do it in the past. Maybe they will in this game as well. Or in the next few games coming up. Great job. 15 calls. That's a lot. You guys were really good. It's tough. It's a tough Monday. I understand that, but I think the vision of moving forward here, it's going to be fun. Like we've said last week. Let's not look at the teams down the road. Let's look at right in front of this team because anybody can beat them. And I think we found that out, and so it's gonna be a fun season. It's gonna be a long season though, and it'll be great to keep talking about it. We'll be back tomorrow on Cowboys Storyline. Make sure and stay with us right here, because here in a few minutes, Cowboys break will be coming up. They'll break this whole thing down as well. For Chris Beam in the back, I'm Nick Eatman. We will see you tomorrow on Cowboys Storyline.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys?